I was pretty accurate in post game. We were average up front blocking on offense. We at times blocked pretty good in the running game, but didn't protect very well, which was obvious. And when we do that, it's hard for us to move the football and be effective. And so we got to improve in that area. Taylor actually played pretty good. He missed a couple throws, but essentially he's running for his life from day one and didn't have a chance. More missed assignments at times, a little bit of technique. Guys getting their head down in protection instead of staying tall and punching and covering guys up. So the good news is in that area we can fix most of that. Might get 51 back this week, not sure. Just depends on how he practices and how he can do with his weight on his leg. So we'll see where he's at. Special teams wise, we were actually much better, except in our ability to handle a punt, a snap, I should say. At that time, I'm not sure what the answer is to that. At some point, guys, just have to make plays. If snap's good, you got to grab the ball and punt it. And then our punts weren't very good. There was 3 line drive punts that made me very nervous when I watched it from a return standpoint. Our guys did a great job of covering. Our return game was better, so we were actually improved in special teams in that game. You didn't see it because of the safety and a couple punts that were average. So I was encouraged by that. And then defensively, we've got to do a better job of giving up big plays. Our safeties have got to do a better job of not letting their eyes get in the backfield, and we continue to work that. And we talk to them. I know they're young, 24 to 31 and 28 basically are guys that hadn't played a lot, and we got to continue to improve. They've got to have their eyes in the right spot and not get caught looking in the backfield. And some of what Iowa State did in the read zone, to be real honest with you, we didn't practice a lot of read zone. And we tried to play catch up during the game. We did make some adjustments and got a little better at it, but that's not something we were anticipating going into the game. So that's the facts of it. Essentially, they either hand the ball off or they were throwing it up to the point that they got into our game. So that was a nice job on their part. And moving forward, we just got to keep rolling, keep working. I think the most important thing for us is try to correct the mistakes we have before we even get into Kansas State. We worked on some of that last night. But guys were in a good frame of mind. We had good practice last night. And so same old, get them ready, get ready to go up and play in Manhattan.
Looking at this Kansas State team, what are some of the things that stand out to you about it?
Well, first off is they're better than what people think. They've lost to 6-9 and 24. So 3 of their losses are to top 25 teams. 2 of them are to top 10 teams. I'm not trying to justify anything, but you get a rap by having a losing record early in the year. I'm going to guess, played one of the most difficult schedules anybody in this conference up to this point. Defensively, very similar to what they've done. I don't think they've changed since I first saw them in the late 80s. Same concepts up front, same philosophy in the back end. They do what they believe in. They're good at it. Offensively, they played better in the last game, much better than they have. But again, they played some good defenses. Texas is athletic on defense. West Virginia's athletic on defense. Mississippi State's athletic on defense. So at times it's not real easy to move the ball and score points. Special teams wise, very similar to what you've seen in the past.
Mike, did you feel like this was actually one of Taylor's better games in terms of throwing the ball downfield? It seemed like he was more accurate.
You know what, Mark? He played good. Everybody says, we saw him do this at times, but I've come in here every week, and I've given you my honest opinion. I've given it to you after the game. The first few games of the year, I told you I thought he was very average. He's gotten better every game. It's extremely difficult to play the position he plays when you get sacked 7 times and you're running for your life another 16 times. You don't set your feet. Your eyes get violated. You don't do a good job of seeing downfield. It's just natural for a quarterback to not want to progress as he should when there's pressure on him. So he played a good game, but I don't think he had the capability of playing a really good game because he was on the run the entire game. So I would have liked for him to carry the ball a little more, but some of that was not set up that way based on what Iowa State did. We hit them on it early, and then they started folding guys over the top, which keeps him from keeping the ball. I mean, it's pretty much common knowledge. So he played good. But would he have liked to have had like 3 throws back? Sure he would. Again, that's pretty common across the country.
You and kind of everybody around the program was pretty excited about this offensive line this year and what it might be able to do. What do you feel like you saw in August that maybe just hasn't shown itself on the field?
Well, I would say now, if I was a gambling man and I was to bet on it, then I would have probably lost my money at this point by where we're at. We played some musical chairs early based on trying to get the guys in the right spot. We settled in a little bit. We lost 51, so we started going to the musical chairs again. And then in the last game, it was really more technique and fundamentals. So, I was hoping, what I say, 1st of October, that I hoped that they would. I thought they really could be as good a group. Those 6 or 8 guys is what we've had. It's not an effort problem. Last week was just some technique, and it's still there. We're just not there yet, So maybe I need to do a better job of not making predictions, but we'll work hard at it this week.
Mike, how are you addressing the Big 12 home losses with your team?
Well, they're the same everywhere. People bring that up. So it got brought up this morning on one of my radio shows. The other team played better. I mean, I don't know. It can play here, it can play there, play in a neutral site, I think at times. What's that?
Isn't that a concern to you?
Well, concern is some of the issues that we've got defending the deep ball and not being good up front in protection, much more than where we play. And that's not to disregard the question, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know that anybody says we don't need to play as hard because we're playing at home. My goal in this game was to start fast, and we did. Then we dropped a punt, and then everything just kind of leveled out from that point. Then we did a good job putting ourselves in good position. If 2 catches the ball in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes left, he's going to run in the end zone. We're up by 2 or 3 points, and now the pressure's on them. We didn't make the catch. Good player, good kid, just didn't make the catch. So I don't have an explanation for that.
Mike, you're playing better teams clearly since the 3-0 start. I get that conference. The conference is a grind, but what's changed about you guys since the end of the Boise game, if anything, that you've noticed? What's different since week 3?
I think really what I said. I think we've got to do a better job of defending the deep ball, and whenever we cover guys up in the run game and protection-wise, we're a pretty good team. But when you fail, when you get sacked 7 times, I think is what we got, and you get pressured 14 times, you're going to have a hard time being successful on offense. Now, the defense we played is pretty good, and we had 42 points. Or you can say you had 35 legitimate points if you count the end of the game as just them playing off and whatever. So as I look at it in my position, I say, I don't know, I could go back and look. Iowa had 12 points on them. TCU had 10 points on them. What did OU have? 38, 34, something like that. And they played somebody else. I don't know who else they played. One other team was a smaller school, I think, Akron. And so we had 35 points, or 42 if you count the deep ball at the end. So I look at it as if we cover guys up and protect a little better, you might have scored 50 points. So just let's get better and be more fundamentally sound offensively. And defensively, we can't give up big plays. You've got to try to defend the deep ball much better. Our guys are getting violated with their eyes, or getting caught looking in the backfield, and they're getting run by. And we have to do as much as we can, whether it's not be so multiple on defense, like tighten it down, and then just continue to work it on Tuesday and Wednesday best we can.
Even coming out of Boise, I got the sense that you figured the O-line was going to be, blocking was still going to be, look, we're going to have to work around that someday.
Well, they didn't do anything for me at that point that made me think they were really good.
Right. But
Yeah.
I'm wondering if something else has cropped up since then that has either surprised you or disappointed you. Like, I didn't expect to have to fix that along with the blocking.
Are you talking about offensive line play?
Just forget the offensive line for a second, which I got the sense even when you were 3-0, that was still sort of an issue.
I just thought they were average at that point. Yeah.
I'm just saying, is there something else that has cropped up since then? Another part of your team, another facet of your players' game.
We're young in the safety position, and it's a difficult spot to be young at.
And that's really showing itself.
Well, yeah. You're watching the same games I am, and there's no reason to stand up here and say anything else. And so those guys have to be really, really disciplined. And Tabo didn't get a lot of work last year, and then you have 2 true freshmen, and everybody knows it's not a secret. They've got to be really disciplined and structured in their eyes, and they get caught looking around at times. It doesn't surprise me, but I wish we had answers for it, meaning more mature players at that position where these guys wouldn't be playing. That would help. But that's not going to happen. So that would be the answer I would give you up to this point. We've improved on special teams in the areas that I wanted to. Our punter needs to catch the ball and punt it. And he needs to be better when he's punting the ball. That's no secret. He's a veteran guy. I've had that discussion with him yesterday. If he's sitting here now, I'll do it again. At some point, if you're a veteran guy, you have to make plays. And then at some point as coaches, when you're dealing with some of the situations we are, you have to try to work with the players and make it all work, all in 2 days each week.
Mike, a couple of things in the secondary. You weren't sure how well Malcolm played, Rodriguez, coming out of the game, but looking back at it, he may have been a little inconsistent, but he made a couple of key tackles I wasn't aware he made during the game.
He should be better this week. Malcolm's playing with a lot of pain, and so he's not at a level to where he can consistently get really, really quality reps there. He had a pretty significant injury that carries an enormous may be an exaggeration, but I would say very painful part to play in a game. And he ran a little better last night, and he's a guy that I think you'll see get considerably better over the next 3 or 4 days.
The other thing was, too, you mentioned the deep balls, and there were some over the middle that the safeties were misaligned or got out of position, but there was one in the end zone, your corner's right on it, and he just, it's an age-old problem, but that technique by a corner to know when to play the ball and when to play the receiver.
Well, in that position, he's in the right spot. He's got to play the ball. He's got to have a biological clock going off in his brain. And at some point, if the play's still going on, you might need to get a feel for him and look for the ball. It's no different than a quarterback that's sitting in the pocket. After about 3.2 seconds, if something's not going on, you better start getting a feel because it's going to start to collapse pretty soon unless it's a 3-man pressure. There's just a biological clock. And at that particular point, he should have been able to make that play. He was in position. He needs to make that play.
With those 7 sacks, is that in your eyes strictly on the O-line, or those slow developing play calls that Taylor hold the ball too long sometimes? What reasons are there for that?
That's right. Yeah. Most of them, you go back and look, they weren't even, it was quick. So.
From a run standpoint, are your guys up front right now a better zone team than anything, or do you still like the loads and the?
They've improved in the last 2 weeks in running football, covering guys up better, getting a little movement. They've improved in that area. And a week ago, we were good in pass protection. We had some technique flaws, as I've said now for the 3rd time. We got our hands and our head down, and we're in position. I've got Mark. Mark's right here. All I got to do is punch and sit. And the worst thing you can do is run over me, and I at least give him another 1.5 seconds. But you're here, and you do this, and he swims and comes over the top, and now he's in less than a 0.5 second. He's back in the quarterback's eyes, and now he's out of the pocket. I'm not trying to make it, really simple, but it really comes down to that. On 3 of the 7 times, that's what it came down to.
But from a run standpoint, if you have to get a couple of yards, are you more inclined to go to a zone, or are you?
It depends on what now you're getting into a whole other world. You have 3 down, you got 4 down, you have a tight bear defense, you got a wide. It's pretty complicated from that point moving forward. But I would say that if we were a 4 on run blocking 3 weeks ago, we're up to a 6.5 probably now in run blocking. So need to improve a little bit more in protection. And, it's interesting. I don't know. I wish if I had all the answers, we wouldn't have have done it last week, but we were pretty decent in pass protection at Kansas that had some pretty good defensive linemen. At least in the NFL standpoint, that's in their thought process.
Mike, have you or are you tempted to change practice and be more physical, do more things, work into Thursday? I mean, is it a work thing that your kids need, or?
I think we're pretty good on what we do. I don't know that we all need to hit the panic button. I'll say this again. No, but that's kind of what you do when you start to change a lot. We get a certain number of hours and different things, and I hate to keep repeating myself, but maybe some other teams will score 45 or 50 on Iowa State from here on out. I'm gonna say probably not. So I mean, we just need to clean up a little bit of protection stuff, and then defensively, got to quit getting our eyes violated. I keep saying that every week, and everybody's going to say, well, why don't you do something about it? Trust me, we're trying. But it is the most difficult part of these style of defenses versus spread offenses. That's why everybody in this league does what they do, because you get guys violated with their eyes. That's why you see the quarterbacks doing this, and doing this. And you see fly motion, and you do that, and then you throw it. You're just violating eyes and guys that have a run responsibility and a pass responsibility. And you have to be extremely, extremely locked in on what you're supposed to. And with us right now, we got young guys that are getting their eyes in the wrong spot.
You talked last week or 2 weeks ago about how hard it is to get guys ready to play when they're redshirting because you only have a couple practices a week. How hard is it to get better at that at this point in the year?
It's what I said. I wish we had a spring ball. We need some guys that need spring ball, but we don't. We knew that going in, and we're trying to do what we can. And so everybody's aware of the issues. We're trying to come up with solutions that can move as quick as possible and get them implemented because you don't get spring ball. And we try to get guys more reps and grow up. I mean, they threw the ball down here in the corner of the end zone that they caught down here, and we're in two-man. Safeties has got a free run. Just got to go break on the ball. Should have been an interception. He's 30 freshman, true freshman, and he got caught and froze for a second, and that's what happened. He came off the field. He knew it. I said, "You're in two-man." He said, "I know. I should have got more depth. Should have been over the top." But unfortunately, it just happened 25 seconds ago. But that's when we're in two-man. This safety doesn't have any work. He's backpedaling, staying deeper than the deepest, and as soon as the ball's in the air, he turns and runs. Trey Flowers has an interception. So he'll get better. He's good. We like him. We like all of them. But right now, they're just learning on the run.
You're quite a bit younger than Bill Snyder, but I asked him this question this
I'm
morning.
a lot younger than this.
But funny thing is,
He's one of my all-time favorites, but I'm not buying on that one. I'm a lot younger than him.
but your tenure is actually fairly close, believe it or not. But,
Years, yeah.
But I asked him this question this morning. When you hit hard times, and his team's kind of in a little bit harder times, obviously it is here, but the expectations are greater for a program that's got tradition and has been achieving high. I asked him if he was happy with the response he's getting from his kids. I'm going to ask you the same. Are you happy with?
Yeah, and I don't pretend to even be on the same level as him, but I can ask him in pregame and to talk and shake his hands, and he'll say, "Michael, how you doing, son?" And I'll say, "I'm doing good, Coach. How are you doing?" And he'll say, "I'm doing good, other than I wish we'd be winning a few more games." That's what he'll say. And what he means by that is he enjoys his job. He enjoys what he does. He enjoys working with his young people. He just wishes he had won a few more games. And that's what he's created there. And so it's no different than here. I mean, we all put in a week's worth, and essentially on Saturdays we're evaluated on what the final score is. And if you end up 1 point short or 30 points short, then essentially in people outside the program's eyes, then you failed that week. And fortunately, I've been in the game a long time, and I know how to look at it differently, and I'm going to guess for him, he does it the same way. Our guys are responding good, even when they make mistakes, and so that's what we do. If they were all first-round picks and they were all 4-point students, they wouldn't need coaches. Everybody just go play, and it wouldn't be an issue. So You get them, you coach them, you keep going, and it's good life lessons for them. You don't have a lot of time to rally or feel sorry for yourself. You just got to keep rolling. You know, we had recruits in this weekend. Game's over. I had to go and do the recruiting. Then went to dinner Saturday night till 10:30 doing recruiting. Then had breakfast brunch at my house Sunday morning at 9:45 until noon recruiting. Can't just send them home. You know, it is what it is. So that's kind of the way life is.
You mentioned post-game about special teams, especially in the kick return game. You guys returned Chuba returned almost every kick that was available to him last week, whereas earlier in the season he may have fair caught it. You kind of just made it sail over your head. Is that something that we may see more moving forward, is trying to find that big play?
The balls were lower, not as much hang time in the last game, or no, the Tech game. You know, I'd mentioned you guys, we didn't do a good job of determining that there was a lot of air under those balls, and so when we were waiting on it and catching it, that they were too far down the field. These kicks that we had in this last game were more beneficial for us to return. So to answer your question, we have to make a good decision based on that, because you get the 25 for free. So the ball needs to be somewhat shorter or doesn't have as much hang time in order to try to facilitate a return.
Do you think there's almost more kind of weighing risk and reward, maybe trying to let him return any kick and maybe taking 5 yards less if he does get tackled?
I'm not understanding.
Like, is it worth taking a risk of possibly breaking a bigger gain if you don't fair catch him or don't let him go into the end zone than having the occasional starting
So
5-10 yards?
you're saying just fair catch them all, or are you willing to take the risk that you might get it on the 20, but he might break one? Is that what you're asking me? Yeah, the second. He's a fast guy. He's going to come out of there. It won't be long. When he does, it'll be worth it. So you could take some. You might take one on the 18. If he makes a good decision, we shouldn't take it in less than a 20. If he makes a good decision. And he's learning on the run too. He's never played. So he's learning. We're coaching him, teaching him. He was better in the last couple weeks. He did a fair catch or two, I think at Kansas and maybe one here. So he's learning. But he's worth the risk, because if we get a crease with him, he's so fast, it should work out good for us. And that's good news for the next few years. So, yes, if it's the right kick, we're willing to take the risk.
He openly talks about, he's dogged and determined to break one.
I know he is, but he's got to do what he's told to do. I mean, he wants to take every one of them, but some of them aren't that way. I mean, it's part of the game. The guys that are blocking for him, that are running down the field, and the cover teams inside the 10, 20-yard line, and they're trying to play catch up, it's not good for us. So he was much better the last 2 weeks, and I know he wants to return him, and I appreciate him wanting to do it, and I want him to, but not on those kind of kicks. Chances are against you.
Mike, this has been a relatively high-scoring series over the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that because what Kansas State does offensively has been so different, or appears to be so different than most of the teams in the conference.
Well, I think you're going to see what we just saw last Saturday. I think they're built for that. They've got the guy that can do it, in my opinion, and they're watching the tape. They're smart coaches. I think that our defense is going to get a big dose of what they saw Saturday. Now, over the years, we've got into some track meets with them, but we've been in track meets with everybody basically over the last 3 or 4 years. So, for the most part. But I think we're going to see just what we saw Saturday.
Your games with Kansas State the last 3 years especially have been similar to Iowa State in that you've had to come back in the fourth quarter. Is there anything to that? Why you guys tend to fall behind?
Well, we did better in this game. We started out hot. Everybody's fired up. And talent-wise, across the board, you really play 30 guys a game. Most teams do. You have your 22, and defense will play 6 or 8 guys, and then you'll have your special teams guys. 30 to 32 guys is what you play. So maybe our talent level and their schools and the way we play is probably pretty similar. I mean, when you talk about just the pool, this 32 or 35 versus this 32 or 35, that's probably why it ends up being like that.
What kind of value has Joe Bob Clemens provided to your program?
Well, he's been good. Joe Bob is, obviously very knowledgeable and understands defense, knows enough to be a coordinator, in my opinion. He's a good recruiter, he's a good personality, he's a loyal guy, loves OSU, and, he's still got a Wildcat tattoo on his shoulder, but other than that, we can't blame him for that after the history he's had there, but he's been a loyal guy for Oklahoma State.
Mike, came into this year, big question, quarterback, replacing Mason. Turns out Taylor played pretty good, especially down the stretch. Is that frustrating to know that big question mark you sort of have solved, but then these other issues crop up and
Yeah.
keeping you from having the season you want to have?
Well, it's the three phases again. We've been undisciplined on special teams. That's been disappointing for me. We've done better the last 2 weeks. Offensively, we haven't been as good up front as what I predicted, obviously. And the quarterback's played. He's played about like I thought he would. He gets better every week. But for the outside, it was a question mark, and he's somewhat answered that. He has room for improvement, too. I mean, he made some mistakes in the game, but not really any more than Mason made in games also. And then defensively, I was hoping we wasn't going to have so much youth at that position that we're having it at. And so I'm not discouraged by it. I wish I could fix it really quick. And the thing that keeps me from being discouraged is the young men that are making the mistakes are busting their tail, and they're good kids and they're trying hard, so I can live with it. But those are the areas that I had concerns about, and the quarterback kind of answered his own question. He's been a good player for us. He's been a tough guy. He's run the ball well. He's taken a lot of hits. I was worried Saturday in the number of hits he was taking. It really concerned me. Hopefully we can clean that up.
Mike, which of your other quarterbacks here does Taylor most remind you of?
He runs like Zach Robinson when he runs, but he throws the ball really well. He throws a really pretty ball, and the ball comes out nice most of the time. So, he's a little unusual in his size and stature and his ability to run. And if he had another year, I think we'd really be bragging on him at this time next year. Just look at the history of the quarterbacks in this league, the improvement they made from year 1 to year 2. I mean, you can go back 10 years from now. And I have not seen a lot, but the guy at West Virginia must be playing really, really good now. I mean, I see his statistics, and last year was kind of his first year, right? I mean, numbers-wise, and then he got hurt. I know he got hurt, but he's now mature and must be playing really well. And you see it across the league. Kansas State's famous for it, right? Their guys hang around forever, and all of a sudden everybody wants to know how they got to be so good just through experience. So he's just kind of in his own style.
When Tylen has a drop like he did in the fourth quarter, obviously a huge moment of the game, do you feel the need to say anything to him, or do you figure his teammates and
Not
KC will
him.
pick him up?
I mean, he's so hard on himself. He was at dinner. He was at the recruiting dinner with me Saturday night for you have the big 5-course, 6-course meal or whatever where you don't know which fork to use, And he stayed there the entire 2 hours and was very he was a great ambassador for a university. He's a great kid. So that's going to happen. I mean, so he won't drop the next one. Next time it happens, he'll make the play. So you don't ever have to worry about guys like that.
JD's carries have kind of been down these past few games. Is that just more so a product of getting Justice the ball more, or what kind of?
Yeah, I think that we need to get them in more. I would say that without having the conversation, what happens with coaches is, and JD and Chuba are guys that are good players, but right now Justice, in my opinion, is a great player, and so it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to take LeBron out of the game and put another guy in and want the same results. It's different when LeBron's in the game. Justice doesn't play basketball, but you get the picture. And so I think that's probably what happens, but we got a lot of confidence in 30 and 27, and we need to probably make sure that happens some to help keep him fresh, and they bring a little different approach to the game.
You spoke of the discipline and the special teams. Is that even more concerning this week because of the opponent? You always
Sure,
talk about the
yeah.
hidden yardage when it comes to Bill Snyder.
Yeah, it's, penalties and special team yards is where they catch you, and Iowa State does the same thing. Iowa State's good in penalty yards. They're good in special teams yards. And so we let them return one on us last year. I mean, we sky kicked one, and we were in good position. We had a guy right there, so it was drawn up. He just didn't make the play, and then the kid took off. Kid could really roll. I think it was number 2 last year. But anyway, you have to be really disciplined in combating their special teams, almost like defending option football. I mean, everybody better be in the right spot, and everybody needs to be playing full speed and not lagging behind, and make sure that we're covering all of our bases.
Don't want to belabor it, but did you get an explanation from the guys that were guilty on the first down illegal procedures? Just get behind the chains like that.
You're talking about for us?
Yeah, because you wondered whether.
We haven't had that issue in years, and so I don't have any idea why. And it wasn't rookie players. So I would say that explanation falls in the category of dropping a punt. I don't know what to tell you. We haven't changed anything we do. We're not changing cadences. It's the same. Our rhythms, every communication's the same. Practice the same. So I would say that if we would have won the game, nobody would be talking about it. But when you do, we would, because we'd address it. But most people out there would not talk about it. But if you lose the game, everybody starts talking about it. I hate to say that, but that's usually the way it is.
I just know you're a big believer in not getting behind the chains, and that was.
Disciplined football is very important, and there's been times this year we hadn't been as disciplined as we need to be. It's like twos drop past. James has dropped some too. He's done it, And fortunately, over the years, we won the game, so nobody really talked about it. Or they said, hey, he did a great job coming back and getting ready, and 2 plays later he caught another one. But when you lose, people see it and get identified. That's just the nature of the beast.
You certainly had your share of battles with the Stoops brothers through the years, and I know your respect for Bob especially is awfully healthy. You have any reaction to the news about Mike?
Mike's a friend, from a distance. It's a tough business. It is what it is, and I got no idea what goes on down there, but I respect him, and it's a tough time for people, and it's hard on him. I know that it'll hit him deep because I know he's a competitor. So, but this is a tough business, But I don't know what goes on down there. Kale and I don't talk about personnel. We don't talk about coaches. So even a month from now, if I asked him, he'd say, I don't know anything about that. He's not telling the truth, but he's not going to talk to me about it. So I don't have any other inside information. But hate to see it for any coach, but it's part of the business.
One last thing, Mike, Dana's playing Iowa State this week. And he said earlier today, he really had no idea what to prepare for. So they got 3 quarterbacks that could play because Kemp is getting healthy. You just have to, if you're playing Iowa State again, or you just got to prepare for 3 different kinds of quarterbacks? At least 2 different styles of play?
He has a little bit of advantage over us because what they did to us, was not on record. So not that it makes it any difference, but I'm going to guess that I just went blank on his name.
Purdy?
No, the D coordinator.
Tony.
Tony. Tony's gonna. I'll bet you Tony's gonna look at this game and say they're gonna play that quarterback, or it would be the guy that's been hurt, right? So I mean, if y'all are, let's just build a scenario here. Y'all are coaching them, because the coach at Iowa State's a good coach, smart guy. You would be willing to play the guy that just played here, unless the other guy comes back and you think he gives you that much more. So I'm sure Tony is probably feeling the same way.
The dude that's out, Nolan, though, he played great against you last year. He played good against OU earlier this year.
I know.
Looks like.
And there's some truth to that. I'm just saying, if somebody asked me, I would be willing to bet that's probably what Tony's what he would think. And Daniel, tell him what Daniel will say. Well, you know what I'm saying.
Here's a big what if, okay? And I know you're not real crazy about him, but at any point during that game Saturday where you're watching them throw a freshman out there that's a dual threat guy, and you got a freshman over on your sideline, not that you think about putting him in, but do you think, I wonder if our guy's going to go out and crank like that right out, when he first gets his opportunity? Because Spencer Sanders seems to be a pretty together guy, but did that ever cross your mind?
No. I mean, honestly, I had so much going on with all the other stuff that we had issues we were trying to fix that didn't cross my mind. But he's practicing good. He's doing well. I'm not a big fan of playing freshman quarterbacks because I think they're prone to injury, and that scares me. Maybe I'm a little soft in that area, but I think when you're young and you get out there and you play in this conference long enough, there's a good chance you're going to get hurt. Maybe not, but so hopefully we can continue on. Like I said, I was worried about Corn Dog in this game with all the hits he was taking and jumping on him from behind and things like that. It made me a little nervous just watching him, and he's a full-grown man, 230 pounds. So a little concerning at times, but hopefully we'll be better. We're working on it, that's for sure. There's not a practice that goes by and a meeting that goes by I know this much. Everything that is being coached And that's my job, is to make sure it's being coached and addressed issues. I think sometimes coaches forget to address the issues we just had before we go to the next game. So it's important for us to address the issues and mistakes we had, fix those first if possible, work toward that before you even get to the next one. Kansas State's going to look and say, this is what they can't do. Let's see if they figure that out first before we get to the next part of the game plan. Would be my guess.